Death wants you to think its design is flawless, but after dissecting 12 of its most brutal kills in the Final Destination franchise, I've found the one terrifying oversight that it prays you'll never notice: the actual key to survival, which we're going to talk about after I tell you how to survive these 12 deaths from Final Destination. If you appreciate a very well overly orchestrated catastrophe and wouldn't mind knowing how to not die from one, consider offering that like button to the great cosmic Ruby Goldberg machine. Subscribing means you're on the list for more videos, not the death list. You're not going to die, you're watching this video. Alright, first up on Death's hit parade is Tod Waggner. Poor Tod, he just got off a plane that nearly turned him and his buddies into confetti, and now he's just trying to, exist in his own bathroom. Maybe he's feeling a bit too smug for his own good, thinking he's special. Spoiler, Death doesn't really do special. So how does Death get Tod? It's almost insultingly simple. A seemingly innocent toilet starts leaking, just a little puddle, but this isn't just any puddle. It's a puddle with ambition. It creates a slip and slide of doom right there on Tod's linoleum. Tod, probably humming some terrible early 2000s song, goes down. And what's there to break his fall? Oh, just a clothesline, conveniently strung at perfect neck height. It wraps around his throat like it was made for. He thrashes naturally, which of course only makes it tighter. A classic. Then the truly weird part. After Tod's done his involuntary interpretive dance of death, the water just slurps back into the toilet. Tidy, almost like death itself mopped up, leaving no trace. The real horror here, folks, isn't just the strangulation. It's your own bathroom, your sanctuary of private thoughts and stinky thoughts, betraying you with such a mundane, almost polite malevolence. It's like being murdered by a passive-aggressive roommate. So how do you, the viewer, who hopefully doesn't have a vendetta against their own plumbing, survive this? First, and this is absolutely revolutionary, fix your damn toilet. Seriously, it's not just about your water bill. It's about not creating a death puddle that Death can use as a skating rink. Second, maybe rethink your interior decorating choices. Don't string up makeshift nooses. I mean clotheslines in your bathroom at perfect strangulation height. Just hang it over the shower bar. Like in a notoriously wet and slippery area, it's just asking for trouble. And third, this might be a genius concept for a lot of you watching, a non-slip bath mat. They're not just for your grandma, they're for not becoming a bathroom statistic because you cheaped out on a $5 piece of rubber. Now, for the dumb mistakes Tod made so you don't have to repeat them. 1. Ignoring the puddle that's practically screaming, "I'm gonna kill you." Pay attention to your surroundings, especially if they're wet and ominous. 2. Panicking in a way that only makes the strangulation more efficient. Death appreciates the help, but try not to be too accommodating. Easier said than done when you're gargling shower water, I guess. 3. Assuming your bathroom isn't actively plotting your demise. It probably is. That rubber ducky? He's seen things. He knows. So, a little plumbing know-how and less dangerous interior decorating might save you from a porcelain-adjacent peril. But what happens when Death decides to play red light, green light with your existence using several tons of speeding metal? Next up, Terry Chaney. Poor Terry. She's understandably stressed after Tod's rather gurgly demise. And how does she cope? By having a very loud, very public argument with her boyfriend Carter right there on the sidewalk. Emotions are high. Logic, not so much. You know how it is, or maybe you don't. Maybe you handle stress with quiet confrontation and herbal tea. Good for you. Terry? Well, she likes eating metal. So how does Death snag Terry? It's almost disappointingly efficient. Mid-rant, probably saying something she'll regret, or well, would have regretted, Terry dramatically declares, "You can all just drop dead!" And then, to punctuate her point, she storms off the curb, right into the path of a fucking bus. A bus that appears from the void like a vengeful god of public transit, seemingly summoned by her own words. It grants her wish. Instantly. No elaborate setup, no creaking signs, or flickering lights, just splat! There she goes! The terror here is the sheer brutal quickness of it all. Death doesn't always need a complicated plan involving faulty wiring and a precariously balanced anvil. Sometimes it just needs you to be really, really angry and not paying attention. It's the universe's way of saying, hey, watch where you're going, drama queen. How do you avoid becoming an abstract painting on the asphalt, courtesy of your local transit authority? Well, 1, genius concept, look both ways before crossing the fucking street. I know. Revolutionary. Your kindergartner teacher probably told you this. Turns out it's solid advice, even when you're an adult convinced the world revolves around your current emotional crisis. 2, maybe don't have your most heated life-altering arguments directly beside active roadways. The ambience is terrible for conflict resolution anyways. All that traffic noise, hard to get your point across and scream at the person who's wrong, which is exactly how you're supposed to argue if you're a healthy person like me. 3, if a bus is coming, it generally has the right of way. It's bigger. You're squishier. It's just basic physics, people. Death loves to exploit basic physics. It's like when I'm driving my 5-ton truck through town. It's like all the cyclists just instantly appear, think they're worth 100 points, and think they're the size of a bus. I don't care if you have right of way, buddy. If you get in front of me, there's a good chance you're gonna get squished. For legal reasons, I meant this in Minecraft. I only drive my truck in Minecraft. I don't ever do this in real life. It's all in Minecraft. And what are the dumb mistakes Terry made so you can feel superior for a moment? First, letting your righteous anger completely obliterate your situational awareness. That mic drop moment isn't worth becoming roadkill. Your epic comeback will be lost to the ages, drowned out by the screech of tires. Second, assuming that because you're the main character in your personal drama, traffic will pause for dramatic effect. It won't. The bus driver has a schedule to keep. You're not on it. You're going to be under it. Third, literally daring fate while standing in what is clearly a bus's personal space. It's like taunting a bear and then being surprised when it eats your face. Okay, so basic road safety and maybe some anger management could prevent an unscheduled meeting with the front of a bus. But what if death gets creative and decides your kitchen is its new favorite workshop for disaster? All right, let's talk about Miss Lewton, our poor stressed out teacher who also narrowly avoided becoming an airline statistic. She's understandably trying to get out of town. Smart move. She's packing, probably on edge, maybe pouring herself a stiff drink to calm the nerves like I am right now. You'll never know what I'm drinking. Which, in the Final Destination universe, is like ringing the dinner bell for death. Miss Lewton's demise is a masterpiece, a true symphony of unfortunate events. A true series of unfortunate events, if you will. I came up with that phrase myself. If any other books or movies have used it, I'm gonna sue them. It starts with a cracked mug. She's pouring vodka into it because, you know, stress. The vodka, being a liquid, leaks right onto her computer monitor. The monitor, not being a fan of cheap vodka, short circuits and f***ing explodes. A shard of glass flies out and lodges in her neck. Ouch! She stumbles, bleeding, and reaches for a towel hanging on her stove. But oh look, the towel is apparently best friends with the knife block, because pulling the towel brings the whole block down. One of the knives, probably the sharpest one, impales her in her chest. Double ouch. Then Alex, our premonition poster boy, arrives, trying to help. Bless his socks, but as he's trying to figure out what to do, the stove, which had a nice little trail of that spilled vodka leading right to it, decides to join the party and explode. The force of this explosion sends a nearby chair flying. And where does the chair hit? Right on the handle of the knife already stuck in Miss Lewton, driving it deeper. Game over. Her house then goes up in flames, just for good measure. The horror here is death as a meticulous sadistic artist using everyday items to conduct an orchestra of doom, or some other fancy words I couldn't think of. So how do you avoid your kitchen turning into a death trap designed by an evil Ruby Goldberg? 1. Don't pour flammable liquids into cracked containers, especially near electronics. This feels like it should be on a warning label for life itself. If your cup is leaking, get a new cup, especially if you're filling it with something that could start a fire. 2. Maybe secure your knife block so it doesn't become a spring-loaded booby trap activated by a dish towel. A little double-sided tape, a screw, anything. 3. If your computer explodes and impales you, consider leaving the house and going to the hospital before attempting complex first aid near an open flame and a trail of alcohol. Just a thought, get out. Call for help. Don't try to be a hero when you're actively bleeding and surrounded by fire hazards. 4. Fire Safety 101. Get out, stay out. Don't stick around for the encore explosion or to see if the toaster also has a grudge against you. And the dumb mistakes Miss Lewton made, apart from just having terrible luck, well, using a mug that's clearly seen better days for your adult apple juice, especially if said beverage is basically rocket fuel. The grab a towel that's inexplicably tangled with a block of razor-sharp knives maneuver, yeah, that rarely ends well as well. It's like those infomercials for products that solve problems you didn't know you had, except this creates problems you definitely don't want. Remaining in a burning, exploding house when you've already got multiple puncture wounds and are actively bleeding out, Death loves an easy target. It's like saying, here I am, come and get me. And finally, underestimating the sheer vindictiveness of household appliances when Death is pulling the strings and has apparently raided your liquor cabinet. I f***ing hate my toaster. He took my girl. Right, so avoiding kitchen-based death traps involves not treating your home like a disaster movie waiting to happen. Maybe keeping your booze away from your CPU. But if you thought that was a series of unfortunate events, just wait until Death combines bad cooking, a faulty fire escape, and some very, very slippery noodles. Alright, next on Death's to-do list is Evan Lewis. Evan just won the lottery. Good for Evan, right? He's probably thinking life is all sunshine and rainbows and, well, whatever lottery winners buy. Mansions made of cheese, maybe. But Death, it turns out, doesn't care about your tax bracket. Evan's apartment looks like a disaster zone before Death even gets involved, which is just giving the universe free material to work with. So how does Evan meet his maker? It's a masterclass in escalating stupidity. A true comedy of errors, if you will. Well, if your idea of comedy involves eye trauma. He's cooking some day-old spaghetti, because lottery winners still eat leftovers, apparently. He gets distracted, probably counting his imaginary cheese bricks, and the food starts to burn. This leads to a small fire in his microwave. In his panic, he knocks a prosthetic hand, don't ask, it's just there, into the garbage disposal. He reaches in, like a genius, and narrowly avoids losing his actual hand as the disposal malfunctions and a knife flies out. This whole kerfuffle leads to a bigger kitchen fire. Evan, now fully panicking, decides the fire escape is his best bet. As he clambers down, he unknowingly loosens one of its screws. He makes it to the ground, probably thinking, phew, dodged that bullet, only to promptly slip on the very spaghetti he carelessly thrown out the window earlier. Because, of course he did. And as he's lying there, stunned and probably smelling faintly of marinara, the now detached fire escape ladder plummets right through his eye. The irony here is as thick as his leftover pasta sauce. So how do you, a hopefully tidier individual, avoid an eye-opening experience like Evan's? First, basic kitchen safety. Don't leave cooking unattended, especially if your cooking skills are, questionable. And maybe don't stick your hand in a garbage disposal that's clearly having a bad day. Second, proper waste disposal. Don't throw your garbage, especially your slippery noodles, out the window. It's bad for the environment, and apparently it's bad for your depth perception when fire escapes are involved. Third, check your escape routes. Before you entrust your life to a fire escape, maybe give it a quick once-over. If it looks like it's held together with rust and hope, consider another option, like say, a window that isn't directly above a pile of your discarded spaghetti. And the dumb mistakes Evan made that were plentiful? Well, extreme carelessness in the kitchen. It was like he was trying to start a fire. Panicked and ineffective responses to said fire. Running around like a headless chicken just makes you a more flammable chicken. Littering. Seriously, the spaghetti was his downfall. Death clearly has a low tolerance for litter bugs. And prioritizing the retrieval of a ring over escaping a burning apartment. Dude, you won the lottery. You can buy more rings. You can't buy a new eye. Well, maybe you can, but it's probably not covered by insurance after that incident. So keeping your apartment clean and not just being a menace might save your eyesight. But what if Death decides to pay you a visit during a routine dental checkup, turning a place of minor discomfort into a horror house? Next up is young Tim Carpenter. He survived the massive highway pileup we're going to talk about later with his mom, Nora. Now he's at the dentist because after a near-death experience, what you really want is someone poking sharp metal things in your mouth. Kids, right? This whole scene is basically Death playing with its foods, or in this case, Tim's teeth. Tim's visit to the dentist is a masterclass in fake-outs. Death is just teasing him and us. There's a leaking fish tank precarious positioned right above him. You're thinking, okay, aquarium electrocution, got it. Nope. Then a dental drill goes haywire, spinning wildly near his face. Ah, accidental lobotomy, classic. Still no. He even nearly suffocates on a toy fish that fell from the tank, but miraculously he survives all these little traps. We are literally being edged by death right now. He leaves the dental office, probably a still bit loopy from nitrous oxide, feeling like he's the king of the world. He sees a flock of pigeons, and what does any kid high on laughing gas do when they see pigeons? They run at them. Of course. This impulsive act makes the pigeons fly off, and it startles a nearby construction worker who's operating a crane. The worker, caught off guard, accidentally releases a massive pane of glass he was lifting. And where does this giant sheet of future window land? Directly on Tim, obliterating him. It's like a Looney Tunes cartoon if Wile E. Coyote actually succeeded and it was horrifyingly graphic. So how do you avoid being turned into a human panini by falling construction materials? 1. Maybe don't fucking mock pigeons, especially when you're near an active construction site. Pigeons have friends in high places, or at least friends who can startle people operating heavy machinery. 2. Situational awareness people. If there's a crane lifting giant panes of glass nearby, maybe don't run around erratically. It's just good sense, the kind of sense that keeps you from being flattened. 3. For the parents out there, maybe reconsider taking your kid to a dental practice where pigeons are known to regularly slam into the windows. That's just a bad omen waiting to happen. It's like a Yelp review. Great cleanings, but high chance of death by bird. And Tim's big dumb mistake, apart from being a kid, his impulsive decision to chase the pigeons, probably fueled by Kanye West's favorite snack, that sweet, sweet nitrous oxide. That was all his undoing. He also likely experienced a false sense of security after surviving all those scares in the dentist office. He let his guard down. Death loves it when you let your guard down. It's like you're saying, okay, I'm ready for my surprise flattening now. So, avoiding pigeon-induced panic among construction workers is key, but what if the danger is more confined, more vertical? Like, say, an ordinary elevator ride that Death decides to turn into a high-speed decapitation device. Let's talk about Nora Carpenter, Tim's grieving mother. She just saw her son get turned into a sidewalk stain by a giant piece of glass. Understandably, she's not having a great day. She's in an apartment building, probably trying to process the horror, and opts to take the elevator rather than the stairs. Seems like a safe choice, right? Elevators are usually pretty reliable, unless, of course, Death has other plans for your neck. Inside the elevator with Nora is a man carrying a box full of prosthetic hooks, because why not? This is where things get snaggy. Laura's long braids get caught on one of these hooks. Just a little snag, but as she tries to exit the elevator, she trips, she falls, and her head gets trapped between the closing doors. Then the elevator begins to ascend. You can probably guess what happens next. It's not pretty, it's a gruesome mechanical decapitation. The real kicker, the other survivors had a premonition, a warning about a man with hooks being involved in Nora's death. They warned her, so how do you avoid an unscheduled and very permanent haircut via elevator? 1, maybe take the stairs, especially if you're in a Final Destination movie, or if you've just been warned about a man with hooks and then you see a man with hooks. That's what we call a clue. 2, if you get a frantic warning, try to remain calm. Easier said than done, I know, but flailing around in a confined space with sharp objects and moving machinery is generally a bad idea. 3, if your hair does get caught on something in an elevator, hit the emergency stop button. And for Nora's fatal mistakes, her primary mistake was succumbing to panic induced by that ultimately misleading yet accurate warning. Her hasty, uncoordinated movements while trying to escape this threat directly caused her hair to become entangled. She was so focused on the man with the hooks that she didn't realize the hooks themselves, combined with the elevator, were the real threat. Death loves misdirection. So keeping your cool in an elevator and maybe opting for a sensible bob cut could be life-saving. But what happens when Death decides your car's safety features are actually its next murder weapons? So next on our morbid little tour is Kat Jennings. Kat's a pragmatic businesswoman. Probably has a very organized spice rack. She's also one of the survivors of that big highway pileup, and she's currently driving the remaining few. You know, because someone has to be the responsible adult, even when Death is playing bumper cars with your destiny. So how does Kat cash in her chips? Well, her SUV suffers a tire blowout, because of course it does. The car crashes into a farm conveniently stocked with a large stack of PVC pipes. One of these pipes, with impeccable aim, impales the car and pins Kat in her seat. She's alive, but she's probably pretty scared right now. A rescue worker arrives armed with the jaws of life. Hope, safety, not so fast. As the rescuer is trying to free her, they accidentally trigger Kat's driver's side airbag. Now, airbags are supposed to save you, right? Cushion the blow? Well, in this case, the airbag deploys with such force that it propels Kat's head backwards, directly onto a sharp piece of that very same PVC pipe, which is now protruding from her headrest like a big coat hook, impaled through the head by a safety device. So how do you, the safety-conscious viewer, avoid being betrayed by your car's own safety features? 1, if you're pinned in a car by a giant pipe and a rescuer is about to use heavy machinery, maybe have a quick chat with them. Hey, just a heads up, there's a pointy thing right behind my skull. And this airbag, it's got a bit of a temper. might be worth mentioning. 2, if possible, and this is a big if when you're impaled, try to shift your head position. Even a tiny bit away from the pointy thing could make a difference, though let's be honest, your options are limited when you're skewered. 3, for the rescuers out there, maybe assess the airbag situation before you start prying things open with giant metal claws. Just a thought, deactivating it might prevent an accidental head shish kebab. And Kat's big dumb mistake? Well, it's less her mistake and more the universe having a really bad day at her expense. The primary error was the rescuer accidentally setting off the airbag, so bad luck for Kat. Her unfortunate positioning, with her head perfectly aligned with the pipe and the airbag's trajectory, was just chef's kiss for death. So surviving a car crash might involve politely asking your airbag not to murder you, but what happens when the aftermath of one disaster immediately triggers another, which is even more violent than the first one? Alright, let's talk about Rory Peters. Rory's our good-natured stoner dude, another survivor of that highway horror show. He just witnessed Kat's rather pointy end at the farm, probably feeling a bit green around the gills if you will, and not just from his usual habits if you catch my drift. He's standing there, trying to process the absurdity of it all. Little does he know, the horror is about to get an upgrade. So how does Rory get diced? It's a direct, brutal chain reaction. Immediately after Kat's airbag-assisted demise, her still-lit cigarette, because of course she was smoking, it's a horror movie staple, falls from her hand. Where does it land? Right onto a gasoline leak that's conveniently sprung from a crashed news van nearby. The gasoline ignites, the news van explodes, violently. Like Michael Bay just walked onto the set violently. The force of this explosion launches a nearby roll of barbed wire fencing into the air. Just a whole roll of it, flying like a very angry, very sharp metal tumbleweed. And where does this barbed wire land? Straight towards Rory. It slices him into multiple pieces with horrifying, almost cartoon precision. So how do you avoid being turned into a human charcuterie board by flying farm equipment? 1, if you're at the scene of a major accident and there's a gasoline leak, maybe don't linger. That's generally a sign that things are about to get loud and explodey. Evacuate rapidly. 2, after an explosion, seek cover from flying debris, like say an entire fence that decided to take up aviation. Get behind something solid, anything. 3, maybe don't stand around gawking after your friend has just been impaled. Shock is understandable, but your continued survival depends on not being in the blast radius of the next catastrophe. And Rory's big dumb mistake? His primary mistake was being close to the explosion and then being in the way of the trajectory of that very angry barbed wire fence. He was just in the wrong place at the wrongest possible time. It's possible that in the shock and confusion following Kat's sudden and rather pointy death, he lacked awareness of the escalating danger. Understandable, but fatal. So, avoiding exploding news vans and weaponized fencing seems like a good plan. But what if Death decides to get the hot girls, turning a relaxing tanning session into a human barbecue? Next on Death's itinerary, we have Ashley and Ashlyn. Best friends, inseparable, even when they explode. They probably finish each other's sentences and share a single brain cell when it comes to decision making. They survived the Devil's Flight roller coaster disaster, which frankly sounds like something you should avoid even if death isn't actively trying to kill you. Now they're at a tanning salon, looking to get that perfect sun-kissed glow for their upcoming graduation. Or you know, a slightly too crispy look. Because in reality, they don't come out looking bronze after a tanning salon. They look like they were just dumped in a KFC deep fryer. So, how do these two aspiring bronzed goddesses meet their fate? Well, it's an elaborate, almost insane sequence of unfortunate events. It all starts with a Slurpee. Ashley, in a moment of carelessness, places her Slurpee on the tanning bed's control unit. Condensation, that sneaky devil, drips into the electronics. The unit short circuits, sparks fly. This is generally not what you want from a machine you're about to climb into naked, because you're about to get your giblets fried off. Then a nearby wobbly coat rack gets knocked over. This causes a wooden shelf to fall. And where does that shelf land? Perfectly between the handles of both tanning beds, jamming the lids shut, trapping them inside. With the controls now malfunctioning and the lid sealed tighter than a drum, the beds begin to rapidly overheat. The bulbs inside explode from the intense heat, and Ashley and Ashlyn are, to put it mildly, cooked. Horrifically burned alive inside their own personal tanning coffins. So how do you, the viewer who hopefully prefers a natural skin tone or at least a less flammable method of tanning, avoid becoming the number 2 combo item at KFC? Well, 1, don't place beverages on or near sensitive electrical equipment. This is just good life advice in general. Your laptop doesn't like Slurpees either, especially not when it controls a device designed to literally bake your skin. 2, maybe ensure tanning salon equipment is regularly maintained and, not a death trap. 3, if you find yourself trapped in an overheating tanning bed, try to break the glass or forcefully pry the lids open. It's going to be difficult, but slightly cut from broken glass is genuinely preferable to extra crispy. Because if you didn't know this, when you break a light bulb, it stops working because the current is interrupted. This probably would have hurt because they would have gotten cut, but they probably wouldn't be dead. And the dumb mistake our dynamic duo made here? Well, Ashley's carelessness with her drink was the initial spark, literally. Neither girl seemed to notice the escalating temperature or other malfunctions until it was far too late. So pay attention to the warning signs, people. If your tanning bed starts smelling like burning plastic and regret, it's time to get out. Some viewers have even argued, and I'm not saying I disagree, that their deaths were a result of their own stupidity, and death really didn't have anything to do with it. Well, that's kind of harsh, but it's not entirely inaccurate. Death just provided the ingredients. They baked themselves. So keeping your Slurpees away from high voltage sunbeds is a solid plan. But what if death decides to crash your workout, turning your goals of gains into a very literal head-crushing experience? Lewis is your stereotypical jock, arrogant, athletic, probably thinks humility is a brand of protein powder. He survived that Devil's Flight roller coaster as well, and now he's at the school gym, pumping iron and genuinely being dismissive of Wendy Christensen's warnings that he's next on death's list. Because, he's Lewis. He's invincible, or so he thinks. So how does Lewis actually die? Well, it's a classic death fake-out. Wendy, our resident psychic, tries to warn him. There's a tense moment where some decorative swords hanging on the wall fall, nearly impaling him. He dodges them. Ha! He cheated death. He's yelling. He's celebrating. Death, I just win. Famous last words, Lewis. Famous last words. What Lewis, in his moment of triumph, fails to notice is that those falling swords, while missing him, did manage to slice through the cables of the very weight machine he's using. So, unaware that the machine is now a death trap, Lewis goes back to working out. He pulls down hard on the machine's bars, and with no resistance from the severed cables, the 2 heavy stacks of weights swing over the top of the machine. And well, they meet in the middle. And what is in the middle? Yeah, it's Lewis's head. It's a gruesome, instant head crush. So how do you, the hopefully more humble gym goer, avoid having your skull redecorated by rogue gym equipment? 1, maybe listen when someone with a proven track record of predicting horrible deaths tells you you're next. Just a thought, even if you think they're crazy, a little extra caution never hurt anyone. Unlike, say, 100 pounds of falling iron. 2, inspect your gym equipment, especially after decorative weaponry has just fallen on it. If the cables look frayed or, completely severed, maybe move to the treadmills. 3, don't taunt death. It has a very fragile ego and loves retribution. Shouting "I win" is just asking for it to prove you wrong in the most spectacular way possible. And Lewis's big dumb mistake, apart from his entire personality, well, it's his overwhelming arrogance and his ego. He was so convinced of his own invincibility that he completely missed the actual danger. So, a little humility and a pre-workout equipment check could save your life. But what if death decides to get handy, turning a trip to the hardware store into a nail-biting and nail-gunning ordeal? Next up, we have Erin Ulmer. Erin is Ian McKinley's goth girlfriend, another survivor of that ill-fated roller coaster. They're in a hardware store, after hours, because that's a perfectly normal place to hang out when you're being stalked by an invisible force of death. Nothing suspicious about that at all. Wendy has just saved Ian from being impaled by a falling stack of lumber. Close call. Surely they're safe now, right? Well, how does Erin get nailed? Oh, it's another one of Death's elaborate Ruby Goldberg specials, set to the haunting soundtrack of Fluorescent Buzz. It starts simply enough. A gust of wind blows some papers. The papers knock over a can of paint. Ian, ever graceful, steps in the spilled paint. Then he steps on a loose nail on the floor. Stepping on this nail causes a nearby shelf to wobble, and then this wobbling shelf, which is apparently stocked by sadists, dislodges a display of nail guns. One of these nail guns tumbles. It lands on the floor, pointing directly at Erin's face. And then, in a moment of pure horror movie logic, it misfires. Not once, not twice, but but it empties its entire cartridge of nails into her head and face. It's excessive, it's brutal, it's the kind of thing that makes you rethink ever stepping foot in a hardware store again. So how do you, the aspiring DIY enthusiast, avoid becoming a human pincushion? 1. Maybe avoid hardware stores after hours when death is clearly on the prowl. They're creepy enough in broad daylight. At night, they're just death's playground. 2. Exercise extreme caution around unsecured heavy tools. If shelves are wobbling and things are falling, maybe that's your cue to exit. Stage left, quickly. And 3, from a store management perspective, secure your damn nail guns. They shouldn't just be able to tumble off a shelf and start firing whenever they want. Home Depot, what are you doing? And Erin's big dumb mistake, if you can call it that, when a nail gun literally went rogue on her, honestly, she was mostly a victim of circumstance, and it was truly unfortunate. Being in the direct trajectory of a falling, malfunctioning nail gun is just bad luck. And there you have it, 12 ways the universe, or death, or whatever you want to call it, can get really creative with your expiration date. If I've learned anything about making this video, it's that these movies are messed up. But if you stuck around, you wanted to know that one thing, that one oversight, the supposed key to survival. And the truth is, the real way to survive a Final Destination movie is to not be in a Final Destination movie. Yeah, I know, anticlimactic, right? But think about it, the entire premise is that death is an unstoppable force with a meticulous design. The premonitions, they might just be death playing with its food, making the chase more interesting. The rules for cheating it, new life, taking a life, they're almost always temporary, or they just reshuffle the order. The real horror here, the theme that runs through every single one of these deaths, isn't just how gruesome they are. It's that they are all inevitable. The lack of control, the idea that no matter how clever you think you are, no matter how many rules you think you've figured out, death has already accounted for it. And it's all a game that's rigged from the start. Because at the end of the day, death comes for all of us. But if you really want to know how to survive death, then I suggest you like this video and subscribe to the channel. And you should watch this video on screen right now, which will tell you how to survive horror movie monsters, which might help you learn how to survive against death.